Is it on? Is it? I don't see a light. Is it? No, it's on. No, it's on. Welcome to Friday Finance Facts with Land of Lincoln Credit Union. My name is Andrew Young and I'm the Chief Lending Officer. Today I want to discuss bankruptcy. The very word evokes strong feelings in most people. The decision to file should be made only when fully aware of all consequences. I want to give some facts to consider if you are considering filing for bankruptcy. First, I want to advise that those who are considering bankruptcy, please talk to an attorney. The presentation I'm going to give is merely for educational purposes, and this is not in any way to be considered legal advice. So let's get into it. There are two types that I'm going to reference today. First is Chapter 7, which is used to liquidate assets and pay creditors. Chapter 13 is used to restructure the debts and make payment plans to those creditors. Some debts will be discharged through Chapter 13 as well. Both businesses and individuals can file Chapter 17, but only individuals can file Chapter 13. Filing bankruptcy can also be expensive. Court costs and attorney's fees add up, and they are non-dischargeable. The average cost for a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 can really be in the thousands depending on which one you use and the lawyer that you hire. These costs are non-dischargeable, which means that this debt cannot be settled with any type of bankruptcy. This debt will have to be paid. One thing to consider too is you may lose property. If your assets are worth more than the state and federal exemption guidelines, they can be liquidated and the proceeds divided up amongst your creditors. Personal bankruptcies can include homes and other assets collateralized in some way but differ from state to state. Business bankruptcies can include a lot more assets that are owned by the business. Another thing to consider is it doesn't solve spending problems, and this is a big one. Bankruptcy fixes the issue, not the cause. It won't be much use if you return back to poor spending habits. So you really have to re-examine what got you to that point and what you can do from there to change that. Build a budget, follow it. As tough as it may be, follow it. It's extremely important. There are sources available that will assist you with this if this isn't something you're accustomed to. Talk to one of the member service representatives or one of the loan officers here at one of the credit unions, and we can help you build that budget. Another thing to consider is not everything can be discharged. You can't simply just walk away from every debt that you have. You can only walk away from such unsecured debts such as credit cards and signature loans. If a good portion of what you owe consists of student loans, tax debt, legal fees, or back child support, bankruptcy will not help you. You may still end up with a fair amount of debt to be repaid with a payment plan. You might be surprised at how much debt you actually will end up with at the end of this. Another thing to consider, bankruptcy will stay on your credit report for 10 years. That's right, I said it, 10 years. The damage to your credit report can possibly prevent you from renting an apartment, buying a home or a car, or even acquiring life insurance. Another thing it will hold you back from is starting a business or getting finance for an existing business that you might have. One thing with bankruptcies in the credit report is time heals all wounds. It only takes time and discipline to increase your credit score after bankruptcy. Once the bankruptcy is done, it is important that from day one that you adhere to any payment plans that are extended to you by the court or any of the creditors. What you have to show is during that 10-year period that you have taken this seriously and that you have shown that you can make all your payments on time when you are asked. This is extremely important. When we see a bankruptcy on the report, we don't necessarily just throw it to the side. We look at the credit history and see what have they done since then. So it's very important that if you have any type of workout plans that you adhere to them. Finally, bankruptcy is a very big and very serious choice to make. It is extremely important that you talk to somebody more knowledgeable than myself, and that is a bankruptcy lawyer. There are plenty out there to find. It is not something that should be entered into lightly, and as I've shown, it will not fix all of your problems. If you do have further questions, I do ask that you please consult with an attorney. Again, this presentation is merely for educational purposes and should not be considered legal advice in any way. Thank you and have a great weekend.